Good evening and welcome to the second meeting of 2024 of the City of Burnside Council. Thank you to those who are at home for joining us in our debate this evening. Before we commence, please turn off your mobile phones or place them on silent if you have not done so. Please stand and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. This is a reminder, please use your microphone to register your intent to enter the debate and wait until I've asked you to speak, acknowledging the chair appropriately and keeping to the 3-minute time limit. Please turn off your microphone when you've finished speaking and be respectful and patient and listen to each speaker without disturbing or interrupting them. Now to the agenda. There are no deputations or public questions this evening. As I go through the reports, please indicate your desire to withdraw each one quickly, otherwise I will seek a mover and seconder immediately. There are no absences. Declaration of interest. Councillor Jones. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Is there anyone else who wishes to declare? Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I declare an interest in 13.1, the Hewitt Avenue Reserve Edible Pocket Garden.
And are you intending to leave or stay?
I'll stay.
Thank you. Confirmation of minutes. I seek a mover. Councillor Henschke, you're moving. Seconder, Councillor Turnbull. All those in favour? Against? Carried. No adjourned business, no public presentations, no public question time, as I've said before, no presentations, no petitions. So our reports, I'll go through them one at a time. Proposed vegetation removal pruning permit bylaw. Councillor Davey. CEO review minutes report. Councillor Cornish, you moving? Seconded by Councillor Dawes. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Community Renewables Program. Councillor Turnbull. Right, so we go back to 11.1. Proposed vegetation. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an alternate motion that I've just sent through to the staff, and apologies for not circulating it sooner, but it's been developed with considerable, or designed by our staff, the administration, and it wasn't finalised till late this afternoon. I'll read it out. And that is that Council 1, in recognition of the value of the tree canopy to the Burnside community, pursue further work regarding a bylaw for regulating the removal of non-regulated vegetation exceeding 6 metres in height on private land. 2, undertakes a council member workshop at the earliest opportunity to determine the specific issues within council's community that are currently not adequately regulated. B, establish the criteria for issuing or refusing a permit under the bylaw. C, resolve any practical considerations of such a bylaw. And D, determine the public good from adopting a bylaw of this nature and expert opinion as to why the bylaw is needed. And 3, receives a report by the end of September 2024 ahead of commencing, have we got a problem with our...
Yeah, they're different. It's different to what you're reading out, Councillor Davey.
This is right. Do you want to look at this?
Receives a report by the end of September.
Hmm.
2024. Ours keeps flicking off. Oh. Ahead of commencing formal steps to introduce the bylaw.
It's gone again.
Sorry, I've got major IT.
You look.
Give it a whack like the old TVs.
It keeps coming and going.
Yes, I can't read the other ones. So I don't know if it's a connection. We had that problem a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Where's Matt the man?
Yes. So receives a report by the end of September 2024 ahead of commencing formal steps to introduce the bylaw, which presents the outcomes of the workshop, recommendations for community consultation, further data analysis requirements, costs and resourcing requirements for inclusion in Council's Q1 2025 budget review.
Councillor Davey, I'll get them to restart the clock so you can actually start speaking.
Thank you. I was going to ask
because there was a lot of changes and some technology.
Yes.
Okay?
So I felt I needed to read that out. I'll speak to that now. I'll speak to this now. So the reason for this was originally, the idea was initiated by Councillor Cornish, and it was considered way back in August last year, and I moved it in council in his absence when he was away ill. The background is we're all concerned at the incremental loss of our green tree canopy across Burnside, and I thank Councillor Cornish for his work in initiating referral of this matter to council, and as a result we have the report before us, which has just been considered for the meeting. As part of option 2 of the recommendation, we've worked with the administration to produce this motion to begin the analysis of the controls over trees. We need to do lots of work to actually determine where the gaps are and where the losses are occurring. And then also how we can work with our community and whether further controls would be in the public and environmental interest. There's no indication that the state government will be making legislative changes to control our and protect our tree canopy in the near future. We have no timelines for this, in spite of the parliamentary inquiry into the urban forest being completed 12 months ago. So I think in the interim, our community would benefit from us exploring and undertaking this preparatory work, which will consider all the practicalities as I've outlined in the motion, and will be, if the government does introduce some wonderful new legislation to protect trees, I think we'll be in a position to do all we can to lead and work with our community to maintain and enhance our canopy cover, because that's what the intent of this is. I understand that any costings necessary and possibly approximately 20 Ks of legal costs can be included in the report for inclusion in Q1 of the 24-25 budget review. So I hope you'll support this motion to progress investigation of this matter of importance to our environment and our community. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Wilkins.
Yes, I'm happy to support this. Thank you, Jane, for the work you've done towards this. I think we should. As soon as I read this, my mind went back to Glenburn Road, where the 3 Moreton Bays were removed and we had no protection. I look at one 30-year-old jacaranda tree that was removed in Eastwood. We have few trees, only one actually, of that calibre in our neighbourhood. It's gone, unwillingly gone. And I think there does need to be an investigation. Excellent idea, and let's do it properly so that we can, well, government will be slow probably, slow on the uptake. So let's get on, and if nothing else, we will be highlighting what we need to be doing in our area to protect the trees that are still standing. I can think of point 29, trees or stands of trees, irrespective of trunk circumference, can also be declared significant by designation in the Planning and Design Code. I can think of a couple of instances of trees that are quite significant. They may not be 2 or 3 metres around, but they nonetheless are significant for the variety of tree that they are and where they are historically. So yes, I'd be happy to support this. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not quite sure which way I sit with this at the moment, even though I did move the initial one. It's a compelling report that the administration's provided. I'm happy to hear a bit more of the debate to help persuade me one way or the other. I don't think the intent of the bylaw was to provide protection. It's more about communication and letting people on the street walking up and down know that if you're chopping down trees on your property, you've got a permit and council knows that you're doing it. We're not the gatekeepers to say whether or not you can and can't. You would just be getting a permit and you're communicating with everyone that council knows about it. So that, you know, we don't all get those calls on a Saturday at 9 a.m. in the morning going, help me, the next door neighbour's chopping down the tree, what do I do? And we have to wake someone up from the administration to go in and see whether or not they've got approval to do such. And luckily, one of the administration was working in the office on a Saturday and drove down to the property and actually saw it and talked to the tree, loppers and stuff like that. So, which is going well and above and out of the way of the duty of the administration. And for me, it was more about a communication piece that people in the neighbourhood are aware that you're going to do some significant work on your trees, on your property, and you put it on the front gate and they know. So it was more about a communication piece to sort of, ultimately, obviously it's a bit of a blocker as well because, you know, people need to apply for a permit first, but I wasn't expecting something. So I'm sitting on the fence with it. I'd like to see better protections from the state government. I can completely understand that there are some legalities around doing this permit system that I don't think would get up. I assume that probably the minister will actually go, not going to happen, I'm not approving this bylaw at all. And it will be dead in the water and we would have wasted probably 20, 40 grand in developing it. So look, there's some of the considerations, but it's not to say, like in the report, it did say that we would potentially be leading in this area if we were to do something because no one else is actually doing it. It's not to say that it's a bad thing. I've got an issue obviously with the members of our community. This is a huge impost on them. If you can imagine, if you were going to do any yard work whatsoever, oh crap, I have to log into a system and apply for a permit and print it out and then stick it to my gate so that my neighbours know that I'm chopping down trees or big shrubs that are 6 metres high. Like, there is an impost on our community, and I don't know whether or not they would want that impost either. So look, I'm sitting on the fence with this one. I would like to see us do something in this space, but I'm not entirely sure it's the right time for it perhaps, but I'll listen to the rest of the arguments in the chamber before I make up my mind and vote.
Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I totally agree with Councillor Cornish. The last thing we want is to spend money for a report that's going to sit on the shelf because the state government is doing something in parallel with us. That's all I want to say.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I have a blank screen. Councillor Jones.
There we are. I'll say something. Look, I agree with Councillor Cornish. This is creating red tape for our residents for frankly very little benefit. What are we going to do next? You need a permit to have a barbecue in your backyard. You need a permit to mow your lawn. You need a permit to pick your nose. I mean, let's get government out of people's lives, people. And let's not spend this money. I mean, I obviously sound like a broken record, but we've got the second highest rates in the metro area, median of $2,000 a house, second only to Walkerville. And look, we're having a red hot go at catching up to Walkerville's $2,300 a house. Let's just stop spending other people's money to no purpose. So I won't support the motion.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Your Worship. I personally feel that it would be a more prudent move to wait for the South Australian government to release their report. That might be all printed, ready to go, but we are unaware. I feel it's a large amount of money that possibly doesn't need to be spent right now. Maybe when this report is released, it might be worthwhile spending the money then. But I'm not going to support this motion. Thank you.
I have no one else on the screen, so unless anyone speaks now or hits their button now, I am going to go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. How do we value our trees? How do we value our canopy? I read this as being a more significant regulation than just having a sign on a fence advising that a tree is being removed or pruned, because to allow that process, you actually need an application to council to apply for the work to be done. And it's absolutely, Councillor Cornish is right, it's absolutely appropriate that we have some signage to advise what's going on, because we all get the calls when trees are cut down or severely pruned and removed. So the intent of this is to explore better regulation of that, and how, because the bottom line is it's retaining our canopy as best we can, our green cover, and as the report from the staff, which is excellent, tells us, we are having measurements of our canopy and checking our LiDAR readings, which we will hopefully get soon to give us an indication of how much canopy we're losing. We all know we're losing significant numbers of our trees, and as everybody knows, when we're doing our budgets and looking at strategies to improve our environment and our green cover, it's losses on private land that are greatest. So Councillor Cornish is right, we do need to communicate better and give all the support we can to council. Any money that's expended on this is an investment in this. I think it's not money down the drain, even though there probably are amounts that will need to be expended on lawyers. We spend hundreds of thousands on lawyers every year, I might note. So it just gives us greater control, greater information to the community, and allows us to intervene, because we have got no indication of when the state government is actually going to put controls in place. We don't know if it's a year, 2 years after the next election, which is what seems to be the case. So this is an interim measure, and I would very much like you to support it so we could progress it. It's not the final decision. It is something that we would have a report, would have a workshop in, I believe, August, and then we'd have a report in September before we made any decisions about money investment and costings. We'd have a lot more information. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Those in favour? Those against? Sorry, I just need to do it again. Those in favour? 2, 3. Those against? Right, casting vote, then I'm going to be voting against. So, did I hear someone call division?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Right, those who were in favour, please raise your hands. So Councillor Harvey, Councillor Hallett, Councillor Turnbull, Councillor Hubel, Wilkins and Davey. Those against, Councillor Henschke. No, just keep your hands up.
We keep our hands up.
Yeah, Councillor Henschke, Cornish, Dawes, Jones, Jennings, Zing and Mayor Monceau. Thank you very much. Second, now we're on to 11.3, Councillor Turnbull, Community Renewable. Just wait a moment till Councillor Jones leaves and then you can start speaking. Councillor Jones, come back. We have to go back to the original motion. Yes, we need to get a decision on the original motion because this was an alteration to the original motion. So before you depart, I need someone to move. Was Council takes no further action pending the Minister's review of the operation of laws about regulated and significant trees. So I seek a mover of that, please. No, we're having to go back and complete 11.1. Yes, Councillor Jones, you're moving.
Yeah.
Do you wish to speak?
No.
Councillor Cornish, do you wish to speak as seconder? So your name was there, but then it disappeared. So were you intending to second?
No, yes, that's fine.
Okay.
No, I don't.
The original motion, you don't wish to speak. Is there anyone who does wish to speak on this matter now? I gathered from the Councillor Davey, you do.
Sorry, I'm just realising that we've gone back to the original. Well, as I've said in my previous speech, the intent of this was to maintain and help and assist our canopy, and it saddens me that, and I think we should be exploring every avenue to do that. We have got no undertaking from the state government that they're introducing any legislation to do this. I think we should keep this matter on the agenda, and so I'll be voting against this. I think the staff have done a significant amount of work already and put together a whole lot of work. So I ask that you don't support this. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes?
Yes, I think I should speak here. This does remind me when we were talking about cats, and we didn't want to go ahead because the state government hadn't made up its mind. We had a discussion, and to put in the cat law, it was lost because we wanted to wait for the state government. Not sure it would be 2 years away. I think Mr. Cooper was just trying to indicate that it may not be tomorrow, but it will be in some time in the future. This is exactly the same, you know, because I can just see once again, and Councillor Cornish mentioned it, the Minister will say no bylaws. He's already done it with some other councils on some other issues. So I'm in support of what Councillor Davey is saying. All I want to do is wait until the state government has made up its mind on this particular issue of regulated and significant trees.
Councillor Hubel?
I have a hypothetical question for administration. If perchance this motion were to fail, where would this issue then lie?
Through Madam Mayor, just get Mr. Spearman just to give us that advice.
Through the Mayor, the answer to that is nothing at all.
I have a question now. It kind of follows. If it were to win, is there anything to stop Councillor Davey or any other elected member moving a similar motion to what was just lost later in the year, or by Christmas, if we've heard nothing from the state government?
Through the Mayor, there's nothing stopping that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, Councillor Jones, you're going to sum up?
Look, colleagues.
Oh, no, I won't. Sorry.
Councillor Davey has a laudable aim, but this bylaw is not going to do what I think she thinks it's going to do, which is protect canopy on private land. I have an olive tree in my front garden, which is over 6 metres tall. It's not protected as regulated or significant. My next door neighbour would like me to cut it down, and I've resisted, but I have a perfect legal right to cut that tree down. If we bring in a bylaw, I will still have a perfect legal right to cut that tree down. All I'll have to do is apply to the council to get a permit to stick on my front fence, say the council's agreed I've got a perfect legal right to cut the tree down. It's totally pointless. It doesn't achieve what Councillor Davey thinks it's going to achieve. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no point wasting any money on this. Now, fantastic, if the minister's going to say 6 metre tall olive trees in Burnside are protected, fantastic. I very much suspect it's not going to happen. So let's not waste time and money progressing this any further.
Right, put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Right, the motion is carried. Division's been called, so those who voted in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Henschke, Cornish, Dawes, Hubel, Jones, Jennings and Zing. Still 7. And those against, Councillor Davey, Wilkins, Turnbull, Hallett and Harvey. Thank you. Now we'll go to 11.3. Councillor. Wait a few minutes, Sam. Right, Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative motion, which will come up, hopefully. Get started?
No, we will restart you.
Okay, no. Oh, yeah. My time will be up.
People's focus, well, it'll disturb the focus while this is happening.
Don't they have them in Canada?
I thought someone was seriously on the floor. We do get it in our.
We've got lots of them.
Oh, we've got Helen.
Oh, she's the best. Helen's the best. Will? Mike? Mike? question mark. Are you going to second? Are you going to second? Are you going to second?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Done.
I'll still continue with what I was going to say to you.
Yeah, true.
Who supports it.
Thank you for being the conduit.
Are we okay for councillor Turnbull to start now?
Ready?
All right, councillor.
I'd like to move an alternative motion. It's come up. It's that council, given the complexity of the matter and the need for further time to process the information received today at 4 p.m, 3:53 p.m. actually, that a decision be deferred until the next council meeting on the 27th of February 2024. Simply, I think that we need more time to consider this recommendation and to make an informed decision. We had one workshop, no prior readings. We were rushed and expected to vote 5 days later. At 3:53 today, we get the answers to Councillor Jones' 26 pertinent questions. Not long enough, 3 hours. Bad luck if you're at work. We need time to consider the pluses and the negatives. I, for one, have some concerns, one being white labelling. Should councils be endorsing products? And if the chosen company goes bust, is our reputational integrity on the line? Now, some of us are quick readers and we can digest things and process things quickly. Some of us can't. We all need a chance to have a go at this. So with time to digest the replies and time to consider, it might help us to make decisions on this project. I'd like to thank Councillor Jones for all his questions and to the team for answering them, albeit with not enough time to work quite through them. So I ask you to support this one and give us another week, another fortnight, so that we can really have a good look at this process. And thank you.
Councillor Hubel, are you seconding?
Yes, but I don't need to speak at the moment, thank you.
Councillor Dord?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think it was obvious today with the number of emails we all received this afternoon, and it looked like policy on the run, didn't it? You know, it's not like this council to have policy on the run. We should have discussed it last year, but we were going to, but we didn't quite get there. Now, the views in this program that we're talking about vary from don't look a gift horse in the mouth to it's too good to be true. And the answer is somewhere between the two of those, I think. But if we are serious, and I'm saying this for Dr. Phil's understanding, if we're serious about reducing greenhouse gas emissions in Burnside beyond the council, and I believe we are, we do need to look at the stats. If you look at those stats in the report, Burnside sits 14th in the list of 17 councils with solar coverage, 14th. If we were an AFL side, our supporters, or in our case our residents, would be seeking to sack the coach, which could be the mayor, to sack the CEO, and to sack us, the board, because we are the board of the council. So to climb the ladder we need a new approach, but we need our reputation intact. So I'm a little bit worried about the white labelling, as Councillor Turnbull mentioned. I'm also wary of doing something few other clubs or councils do. And I've got the era water in my mind again, you know, we finished up with only three councils involved, and we shouldn't have really gone ahead with that, but we did. So, but this time we do have 3 councils who've joined the program, with ourselves and Marion considering the program. So there's a bit of light. I've got a minute to go, correct? Thank you. What I would like, and this is what I want to throw in there, I'd like a Mitcham Council unaligned member to talk to us about the decisions they went through and what went through his or her mind. We had very, very good staff member from Mitcham speak to us on Tuesday night last, but I'd like to hear from them, not the mayor necessarily, but a decision maker as to what they went through. I think that would help us, even for in a fortnight's time. I like the fact we're going to do an independent review and a prudential review and so forth like that. That was in the original motion. I think that should stay when we discuss it in 2 weeks' time. But my preferences would be that Shine Hub was an SA-based company. I have to agree with that. that the solar panels were made in Australia. That might be unrealistic, and only Burnside electricians are used, and that is in there. So I was pleased to see that too. So not all of those are achievable, but the rentals, I like that, and the fact that we are in line with our community strategic plan. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish.
Just a question in regarding to the timing. Will this extension, how does that sit with the timing of decision making, etc.?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I am concerned because our place in the queue is time sensitive, but I just might ask Mr. Cant whether he's got some insight into that for us.
Look, through the Mayor, as the CEO rightly said, speaking to Shine Hub at the moment, they do have the capacity to take us on at this stage if Council were to make a decision tonight. However, there are another number of councils currently considering the matter who may make a decision prior to this matter coming back to this council. It does run the risk of us missing our place in the queue. It's only 2 weeks, but there is that risk.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank Councillor Turnbull for her motion. I have total in principle support for this whole concept and the program. I think, like Councillor Dawes has said, I'm absolutely shocked that we have such low uptake of solar panels alone in Burnside without even going into the batteries and the other renewable side. So I think our whole community would benefit. I just think there is some concern about the whole extent of it and all the variables that I'm still not totally comfortable with. We had an excellent presentation from the gentleman from Mitcham Council, which was very illuminating, and a great video. But I too would like to hear from an elected member and to hear how they came to their decision, because they would have been absolutely pioneering in terms of considering all the issues and the implications. So it'd be interesting to hear their thought processes. But I can't see, quite apart from the risk that the CEO's outlined, I think it's a small risk if we put this off for 2 weeks and just defer our consideration with needing a bit more information. So I'll be supporting this.
I have a blank screen. Does anyone wish to enter the debate? Councillor Will.
I'm happy to support Councillor Turnbull's motion. I think the whole community renewables program has been thrust upon us with not enough time in indecent haste is the word I would use. Thank you, Councillor Jennings. I also think that we owe it to the residents of Burnside, the 36% of us who have panels and others who don't, that this is what is being contemplated. And I think we should explain this concept to all of the residents in Burnside before we actually do it. I keep thinking of NDIS, Pink Bats, all of these programs that come along and then fall over. So we have a reputational risk. I'm not keen on the white labelling. And I also think that we should be able to support the manufacture of panels in our own state. For that reason, I will be supporting Councillor Turnbull's motion. But my chief concern is nobody else outside this room knows that this is being contemplated. No matter how good the presentation was from Mitcham and the uptake by the Mitcham community and the examples that were explained to us the other night are good, I'm yet to be convinced that this is the right way to go. So for that reason, I'm happy to support Councillor Turnbull's motion. Thank you.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I was going to be supporting the officer's recommendation on this, but in saying that, I mean, I know where I stand on these sorts of things, and there's a phrase that I parrot out a lot, but it's that idea of the perfect being the enemy of the good. And I think if we, as an approach to decision making, don't do things because they're not perfect, then we're not going to be moving in the right direction. So I respect the amount of, I guess, hesitation some members have in moving forward with this, and I think it is right that we put it off until everyone's feeling comfortable with making this decision. So I'd prefer if we went ahead with it tonight, but I also respect that not everyone feels the way I do. So more time to digest will give us more wisdom, and hopefully in a fortnight's time we can be confident and collected in our approach to this when it comes back. I don't feel we need to explain it to the community though. I think we are elected to make decisions, and we should make decisions. I don't need personally to hear from a decision maker at Mitcham. I respect the amount of due diligence that they have done, and either we feel that we want to do all that over again. I know that the decision they came to was to support it, so to hear why they did or didn't isn't something that I think is that important to us. But we also don't want to be hasty. So getting ourselves comfortable with this, I think, is really important. And there is a little cheap shot that I did want to make about, this is light-hearted, Councillor Dawes, don't have to look concerned, when you talked about the football analogy. Another thing we would be doing would be putting up tarpaulins, and that's not something we want to do. We want to be putting up solar panels. And for those that get it, you know what I'm saying, and it's a shame Mr. Heinrich's not here to hear that.
Councillor Hallett.
Thank you. I actually did also support the recommendation that we have, that the administration presented to us. I don't have any great problem with waiting an extra 2 weeks, but what I would ask members is that over that time to, when they're just going about their daily business, meeting people in the park, whatever, talking to local business owners while you're doing your shopping, just ask them what they think about an opportunity to get cheaper electricity, to be able to get panels through the system that's offered here, where you're paying more like a subscription than actually having to pay between 12 and 15,000 to actually get all of that set up. I think the people that I've been speaking to are very interested in it, because it does affect the cost of living. Yeah, that's what I would recommend, that we do use these 2 weeks to just have conversations with the community around what do they think about it. Would they like to actually join the scheme and get cheaper electricity as a result?
Councillor Head.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to say the same things that people have been saying around the room tonight, but just lastly from Councillor Hallett, community participation is really important, and somehow rather engaging with residents. It would have been great to have the project roll out an awareness raising approach before we commit to Shine Hub or any other company, because it is a strategic decision for the council to go down the path of community renewable schemes. A lot of local councils are doing it around Australia because the state and federal system is not catching up quickly enough. So I get that, but one resident said to me, well, why do we need council to be involved? And so what is the problem in the city of Burnside? Why wasn't there more uptake of renewables? Do we need to spend more time in the problem definition phase of this project before we jump into a partnership, pretty much? So I'm not sure if 2 weeks is going to be enough, but we'll see what information we get. And I thank the administration for all the effort. I'm confident there would have been a positive outcome from the motion that the recommendation they made in the agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to also thank Councillor Turnbull and support her motion for us to have more time. We became aware of this only last week with lots of questions unanswered. The urgency of supporting this concerns me. We need to have all the facts before making such an important decision, which involves our residents and reputation. I'm questioning the risk to Burnside's reputation, putting our names to something that's quite clearly in its infancy. Getting on board with the scheme just because we may miss the boat for a specified amount of time is, in my mind, not the right reason to proceed with this. I want the I's dotted and the T's crossed and more information rather than a 20-minute presentation, which, whilst excellent, left me with more questions. Just because Mitcham Council have pioneered this concept doesn't mean that we have to follow suit. I note that the hub for this company is in Sydney, and there is only one council in Sydney that has actually joined up to this when it's actually in their hometown. I would have thought that there would be more. There's 128 councils and only one on board. And as Councillor Turnbull also mentioned, what if this company were to go belly up? Does this not jeopardise our reputation? We just need more answers. So I'm very happy to support her motion. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. I might as well. Everyone else has had a bit of a go. I'm pretty much on board with the proposal. I'm happy to wait an extra 2 weeks and follow this so everyone's got a chance to digest and comprehend the information. It is a lot. Some items that have come up in the discussion tonight that I think we need to be a bit more aware of is that we clearly look inside this council quite a bit and not outside of what others are doing. I certainly knew about this proposal and this scheme that Mitcham has been running for quite some time, and I've even had residents saying we need to bring it in here. And I understand that some people probably don't look at what other councils are doing, but maybe that's something to do with our, we can incorporate that with our training about what's best case happening around the state and Australia with councils. Because we don't have to invent the wheel every time. Many other councils actually do this sort of stuff. I'm not as concerned with reputation as well. If you speak to the general person on the street, unfortunately, from decades of issues at this council, every time you say you're from the city of Burnside, they always roll their eyes in the back of their head. I think, a scheme like this might actually improve the reputation of the city of Burnside. So I'm not overly concerned about the reputation sort of stakes that others might be. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing for residents to be able to get cheaper electricity, to be able to get into doing something environmentally beneficial for their community at a very cheap rate as well, where many people probably can't afford those huge costs, especially pensioners that are on fixed incomes and don't have the ability to spend, $15,000 and $20,000 on panels and a battery, but they can certainly pay it off over a decade with cheaper electricity bills along the way. So I do think it's probably a good thing. But as I said, I'm happy for everyone to digest digest the information more and come back in a couple of weeks. Hopefully we still have a chance to be a part of the proposal.
Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, this has got my, a big thumbs up from myself. It's a really clever idea, and Burnside is putting their face on it, and they're supporting it. There will be trust, although 5 days notice. I do need a bit of thinking time. I haven't even been able to get in contact with my friend who is in the solar and battery business and was one of the first to jump on when the state government was rolling out the Tesla virtual power plants. If you've got the money to buy your system outright, that's excellent. Not everyone has got $20,000, and they wouldn't like. And if they did, they wouldn't be making a decision in 5 days with five sleeps. We need 2 weeks. That might be the perfect amount of time to ask many questions and have a more holistic understanding of how this will work and how it will affect our community and how it will potentially look in 20 years' time from now. So, thank you.
Can I just ask a question? Correct me if I'm wrong. This does not commit every resident in Burnside to join the scheme. This is an opportunity that individuals within our community can choose to opt into or remain out of. Am I correct in that understanding? Because that's the way I understand it has operated in Mitcham.
Certainly, through Madam Mayor, your interpretation is correct. Each resident would still, I believe, do their own due diligence to understand whether it was a product they wish to avail themselves of. This certainly is not committing residents to anything. It is providing with an opportunity.
So therefore it is actually not the same as Zero Water. You can't compare the two projects.
I don't believe so.
Right, thank you. Councillor.
Just another question, if I can, with the white labelling. Is it exclusive or is it non-exclusive? If another company came to us with the exact same proposal, would we be able to promote theirs as well in this space? So it's not just this one company in the future. I know they haven't set up yet, but I'm just saying, is it an exclusive white labelling deal with this one particular venture, or is there opportunity for others in the future?
Through Madam Mayor, I might have to take them on notice because I'm not certain of the final aspects of the legal agreements. But the one thing we do have to be cognizant of is the changing in technology. So I've got no doubt as we progress, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, the technology we're talking about now and potentially as an offer to our community will be totally different in 5, certainly different in 20 years' time, absolutely. From my perspective, there's a lot of avenues this endeavour would approach, but cost of living at the minute is probably one of the high ones on our communities list. But for us as a city, I think it really hits that environmental initiative. And I'm being really heartened tonight that everyone in principle understands what we're trying to achieve, so it's heartening. It's just getting down to the details now and nutting that out. So thank you.
I'll go to Councillor Wilkins next because I did ask her to turn her microphone off because Mr Cowley's mic wasn't working properly with hers on, and then I will come to you, Councillor Davey.
I do have a question. I would like to know how quickly the staff could put together a flyer that I can letterbox to residents in my suburb to explaining to them what it is that we are envisaging signing up for, because at the moment they don't know. We can talk to them, but often people like to read and see and digest what actually is happening. just a question, and I think that's something that we owe the residents if we're going to make this investment in this city.
Through Madam Mayor, I actually wouldn't encourage that approach to make, I'm just giving my opinion, I actually wouldn't encourage taking that approach to making this decision. A couple of things to be aware of. Yes, we've talked, in the report talks about some factors we should be concerned about, and one is the risk factor. How is our reputation going to be impacted if things go awry? But in terms of financial impact, there is no financial commitment from the City of Burnside. So from the residents' perspective, heaven forbid, if this thing did go pear-shaped, there is no financial impact for the residents of the City of Burnside. There is certainly financial upside. I firmly believe this is a decision that the members around this table need to be comfortable with, and I'll do everything in my power to provide the information that you need to make that decision. That's my commitment to you all.
Can I just add that those questions, I have followed the project for Mitcham for 4 years, and those questions were asked by residents who attended the public meetings.
Where is that public meeting?
No. This was after the commitment. Mitcham had made the commitment to go ahead with the project. Then they had meetings where hundreds of people over time went along and they asked all those very relevant questions. How is this going to work? What happens if? All that if only, but I'm not saying, telling you what to think, but I'm just giving you factual information. All of the questions that were asked by residents after the council had committed to go ahead and had done all their investigation into the reliability of and the risks involved and the probity involved in selecting the appropriate company to run their program. That's just for information. Now, Councillor Davey.
Oh, thank you. Just a question. I'm interested in the PV solar lifespan. I mean, we've heard tonight about in 20 years' time things will be totally different. I've had PV solar panels on my home for about nearly 15 years and they're still working. I mean, I pay $66 a quarter for my electricity. How long do they last and do they become redundant? I've never thought of that issue.
Yep. As I said, through Madam Mayor, as I said, the technology is constantly evolving. The best science at the minute is you can expect at least 20 years. What tends to happen with them is the efficiency of the panel starts to diminish. So, say a 20-year-old panel, it may have a charging efficiency of 80% of what it would have had when it was brand new. So they don't tend to just stop working, they just become less efficient over time. So most of the manufacturers will offer warranties out to kind of 10 years, but the lived experience, as you're experiencing, is anything between 15 to 20 years is what people are experiencing.
Are there any further questions, or does anyone else who, I think everyone except for Councillor Zing has spoken. So if you're happy, I'll go back to Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor.
Unless you're asking a question, because you already had
Could I please ask a question before I sum up? Yes. My question is, in the procurement process, can South Australia suppliers be preferenced over other Australian suppliers? I seem to remember that in the Procurement Act there was something about free trade between all states.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the short answer is yes, we can. We have mechanisms within our procurement where we can provide a higher weighting to local and national suppliers. So, for example, if Council decided that they wanted to go to tender for this concept rather than take the officer's recommendation, you could go to market and you would put a higher weighting in your assessment on companies that were South Australian based and Australian based, as opposed to other parts of the globe.
All right, you go to sum up now.
To sum up, yes, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of it all, but thank you for your input, and I hope that in 2 weeks' time we have more questions, we know more, and we can really understand what we're doing here. So I hope you support this motion. Thank you.
All those in favour? Those against? Sorry, can I just see that again? Did you put your hand up, Councillor? Sorry, can I just get you to do it again? Those in favour? Those against? Thank you. The motion is carried.
Through Madam Mayor, just if I could ask, I just want to reiterate the point I made earlier about I'd seek to do my level best to provide you all the information you need. So in the next week or so, if you've got any specifics, and I'm happy to work through that one if I can, so I'll think about it. Make sure you feed your information, your questions in, and the team will work away so that hopefully by the time we get to the meeting, there are no unanswered questions, is the goal. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. I'll just wait for Councillor Jones to return, but I can just go through. You received your responses to open space projects, questions on notice and asset management budgets. You've got them tabled in front of you and they were sent to you earlier today in an email. I'll just wait for Councillor Jones to come back in and then we'll move to the motions on notice. 13.1, the first one is Councillor Harvey. You can start now, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I rescind this motion and I move that Council defers consideration of the Hewitt Avenue Reserve concept plan until the open space layer of the master plan has been developed and endorsed by Council. Unfortunately, there was confusion at the last Council meeting and we did not have the opportunity to debate this topic. I have concerns with these costs. The data does not stack up. A total of 223 residents were sent a community consultation survey regarding this pocket garden, and it was also posted on Engage Burnside. 29 residents responded, 27 residents in favour of this garden. This is only 12% support for this community consultation, hardly overwhelming support for this. I cannot support a concept that the community doesn't get behind. Why is there not support or huge support for this little pocket garden from the community? A projected cost of $86,700, including $10,000 on a small artwork installation. Is this $10,000 necessary for such a small garden? I think not. But then again, it's just another $10,000 of ratepayers' money. Why does every tiny bit of green space have to include artwork at an exorbitant cost? Why does it need an edible garden? A total of 5 residents are prepared to grow and maintain this garden. Who is going to monitor it? There is no fence, no gate proposed. How is this produce divided up? 13 residents then responded in the final consultation. That is only 6% of the total residents. So once again, where is the support? It is our responsibility to allocate ratepayers' money wisely, not splash the cash. This is not about depriving residents or what could be a lovely little park to use. It is about spending unnecessary money where it is not needed. The lack of community support in this instance does not assist this project. I would be happy to support trees and a lovely environmental garden for Rose Park. With a little underplanting and tidy up and TLC, this sweet little park could provide a shady, calm refuge for any resident to relax in without the huge cost of $86,700. And we all know that estimate usually blows out to being a lot more. So I hope you will see that the figures don't add up and there is a lack of community support, and I hope you support this rescind motion. Thank you.
I just need to point out that there's actually a two-part process to this motion. Your second part can only be added to the motion after this one is won. So we deal with the points 1 and 2 first, and then, is that correct? And then if that is won, then you can move the additional item. All right, so we have to go through that process first. Yeah, we deal with the rescission on what was voted on last time, and then we move to your addition to the motion. So is that clear to everybody? Sorry, someone's saying no. All right, we deal with points 1 and 2, which was the original motion. That is being rescinded. We deal with that first, and then if it is rescinded, then we move to the second part to be added. All right, is that clear for everybody now? Right, so Councillor Dawes, you're seconding this?
Yes. The reason why I have seconded this rescission motion is because of the misunderstanding which occurred at the last meeting when the original motion was brought before the chamber. I honestly believe that Councillor Henske had pressed her button to withdraw the motion for later debate, not to immediately have a vote taken without debate. No one's to blame, it's just simply a misunderstanding amongst us. And this was borne out by the 6-all vote when we did have the vote. And this is very unusual for an item that has not been withdrawn. So I believe we need a debate based on the fact that there was some uncertainty about some of the aspects of the motion. Thank you.
I have no one on the screen. Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'll support this rescind motion as well. The motion to approve the development plan for the Hewitt Avenue Pocket Park was passed in the last council meeting without any discussion or input. I believe that a matter such as this should be open for discussion, particularly given the high level of expenditure involved. So I thank Councillor Harvey for bringing this motion back for reconsideration and discussion, and I support the rescission motion so that this discussion can happen. The process at the previous meeting did not meet the requirements of how we should conduct our meetings. As elected councillors, we should have the opportunity for open and transparent discussions on the matters that are brought to council. It's clear in this particular situation it didn't happen. A decision was made without any opportunity for anyone else to discuss it. Had there been an opportunity for discussion, I would have raised the following points. The cost of this project is eye-watering, considering the small size of the area and considering the severe financial restraints we have placed on our budget bids in 2023. Further east up the hill, we have quite a number of projects that have been agreed to, which are incomplete or deferred for budget reasons. Projects that are longer standing and agreed to long before this one. I refer to projects such as the Belliat Reserve development, the completion of the Tregenza Oval Master Plan, the restoration of the Heritage Bridge in Moorcroft Reserve, the Anzac Lookout redevelopment, and so on. All these projects were put on hold because of budget restraints, which are awaiting their turn when funding becomes available. I strongly believe that the proposed Pocket Park development in Hewitt Avenue should take its place in the long queue, and that we should, as council, be able to discuss its relative value and merits. It should be assessed on its merits, and this means that it should be open for discussion. So I support the motion that the motion C230124/13604 be rescinded. This is so that the merits of the proposal can be discussed by council, and I hope that you'll also vote for this open discussion to occur. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question of the administration? I am of the understanding that the original motion, when passed, would then be subject to discussion and debate when it comes as part of the budget process anyway. Am I incorrect in that way of thinking?
Through Madam Mayor, no, you're correct. As per my commentary at the end of this motion, it alludes to the fact that Council agreed to adopt the master plan or the plan as a concept design and refer that project to the budget process.
Where it would then be debated and discussed along with all the other projects
Certainly.
and ranked appropriately. All right, thank you. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, hang on.
Can you just turn yours off? Because Councillor Davey was about to ask a question. Councillor Hensky, yours is on. Could you
Yep.
just turn yours off? I will. You are after Councillor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We've got a few IT glitches tonight. I support this rescission and thank Councillor Harvey for bringing it to Council and for the reasons outlined. The main concern that I have is that there was no opportunity for us as elected body to debate this at all at the council meeting. It was just pushed through, and Councillor Dawes has outlined that very well. I don't know what happened, but it was just assumed we didn't want to debate it and discuss it. I have a myriad of reasons why. It's, as you all know, I love pocket parks. I love putting trees in pocket parks and underplantings and grass. And they're all very valid for this park. I also love community gardens, but there is no convincing case made for anyone in this area to manage and look after and care for a vegetable garden or produce garden in this area. I think the situation that it's in between two streets, it runs a block, is wonderful for the locals in the area. I do note though that Rose Park has a lot of homes with very well established big gardens, and I really can't see the costs, any costs and benefits that have been undertaken to show that we actually need a community garden in this situation. I think we could develop the little pocket park for 20,000K, but I don't see why it isn't included in the open space layer plan, like all of our other developments are that we all want in our little parks, for consideration in the whole and for the allocation of resources to upgrade them on a priority basis. So I can't support the huge investment that's proposed and the way it's proposed in this, and will support the rescission.
Now, Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Well, thank you all, and thank you for the mindset about saving money, because I certainly do have a mindset for saving money. Now, this is not a community garden. Let's be clear. This is called an edible pocket park, an edible garden with what they call wicking beds. It's not producing vegetables for half the suburb. It is an edible garden. The key thing in this patch of land is there is no path to the bench. If you're in a wheelchair or a walker or a quadriplegic, you cannot actually get to the park bench. That is this is a compliance project. We're not meeting compliance, and that's not right. This project goes ahead as a co-design with the community. It's not for this chamber to pull apart, not for this chamber to do operational stuff like work out the price of concrete or the price of a brick for the paving. It's it's been done. The concept, we said, let's go forth, community, go and do a co-design workshop. Here's some money for it. We approved that last year. We gave project development money to the community and the administration to develop the project to the concept stage. And here we are, pulling the whole project apart. That's not the way we do things in council. We set the project forward with $7,000 of cash, developed the project. The project was developed with the community and businesses on Kensington Road who would like to have a bench and a table so their workers can sit and eat their lunch, right? There is no path, so if you're in a wheelchair you can't actually get to the bench. These are fundamental, minimal things we've got to do. We have got government grants coming through. The project will be halved. We're talking about 2 coffees a week for each resident in Rose Park. Now, in terms of open space, if you think you want to sell that block of land, I'll tell you something. Every other ward for every other household has equivalent of 150, like a household size piece of land per house. In Rose Park and Eastwood, it's the size of a bedroom. Open space is critical to these places. People have got small backyards in that area of Rose Park, not big ones. I spoke to the local MP. They'd understand. It's a small backyard area, and there are businesses running up and down Kensington Road with nowhere to go. I'm really passionate about this, and so is the East Residents Association, who have written this letter. I hope you've read it. I've printed it out for you tonight. They've said, please consider voting against this motion. They're very disappointed. It's been going on for 4 years. 4 years. And here we are, pulling apart a small project for disability access, pretty much. We've just got to stick to this and not do rescission after rescission in this council. We've got policies and processes, and let's stick with it.
Councillor Wilk.
Thank you. I'm actually supporting the rescission simply because I think I agree with all of the things that we've highlighted in Pocket Parks. I'm pleased that over time there was this park in Hewitt Avenue that has been put aside on all the councils that have gone before us. I agree with you that then, Councillor Henschke, that there needs to be a path through there from Kenzie Road to the other street that it borders, so that, that people can traverse there quite safely. There needs to be park benches of the style in place for a heritage area, and seats with arms so that people who are elderly can get out of the seat, and a wooden table where people can actually put their lunch on. Fabulous. They are well used in Eastwood. The number of people that walk around the streets in Eastwood at lunchtime has increased exponentially over the last 3 years. So that's important. I get that. I don't get $86,000 when there are things to be done in my area that I've come back on council that haven't been done previously. So I agree that there needs to be paving and a pathway. I agree there needs to be seating, and great that the residents have worked with you to do it. But it doesn't need an art exhibition, statue. The beauty is in the space itself. It just needs a bit more love and care, and perhaps another tree of a different variety. I just leave it. I've had enough. Said enough. But 86,000 is too much.
Councillor Jones.
Evening, colleagues. Look, this project reminds me of French roundabouts. And what you may not know about French roundabouts is that in France, the person on the roundabout has to give way to the people wanting to come onto the roundabout. So you can rapidly see that it descends into chaos very quickly. It just becomes a gridlocked mess, which is a bit like what's happening with our parks in Burnside, because we have umpteen park master plans, as Councillor Turnbull has said, that we don't actually have the money to do the master plan. So we've got Belliet Reserve, we've got Penfold Park, we've got Tregenza Oval, we've got the Anzac Lookout, which desperately needs some work. So it's not that I'm against this project, but to be honest, the council's had the land for 50 years. The urgency of doing something about it now and just clogging up all these other projects that we can't afford to do, I just don't feel the need. And look, if people want, it was sold to me originally, it was a community garden, and yeah, okay, $4,000 for 5 people to do a bit of community gardening, that might have been a bit stretched, but yeah, like everything, this is why we can't have nice things, because everyone, it's just like we want a statue, there'll be 10 grand, clickety-click, let's have some bollards. Why do we need bollards? Who knows? Haven't had bollards for 50 years, but let's spend another $10,000. Maybe we could have a heritage fence. That could be $13,000 for a 12-metre fence. That was another of the great gems of council's decisions in my earlier years. So, look, I think, it's a combination. It's lovely on its own, but it needs to be considered in the context of everything else we've got ongoing. And look, I actually think that's why the next motion, if we get to it, is a great idea, is let's have some strategic planning of working out what we're going to do with all our parks and what order we're going to do it in. Have some cost-benefit analysis of everything, stick it on the website and say, here's the list, people. As we have the money, we'll do this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. That would be a sensible way of doing things, rather than this constant ad hoc spending of money. So, look, I will support the rescission motion, and I hope you will too.
Councillor Davey.
I have a question, thank you. When we look at the City Master Plan open space layer, how are we doing, and referring to what Councillor Jones has just said, how are we actually evaluating our open space and prioritising it and prioritising upgrades? Because it seems to me that the process is quite unfair at the moment and inequitable. And so I would really like to be able to understand what we're planning to do, because we do have to allocate money, we have to prioritise, and we have lots of demands being made on our resources.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm going to have a go at this one, and Mr. Cant will pick me up if I miss something. The open space layer broadly will look at, as it says, the amount of open space that are available across the city of Burnside, and we'll make some judgment calls on whether there's deficiencies in certain areas or whether we're well served in others. And that will enable council to make some informed decisions about where we should be investing in our open space in the future. What it won't do, I believe, and I might get Mr. Cant just to comment on this, for example, looking at this small parcel of land, I don't think it'll give specific advice about how this parcel of land should be developed, for example. Can I just get you to elaborate, Mr. Cant?
Yeah, through the Mayor, the CEO is quite correct. The open space layer, which will be developed with all council members, obviously, and with significant community consultation, we'll absolutely have a look at the holistic approach of provision of open space across the city. And it will essentially look at a high level at where there's gaps in our open space networks, what they're currently being used for, but what opportunities that they can be used for as well. And that's at a high level. Is this reserve suitable for recreational, passive recreation, sporting, tree planting, environment, etc., etc.? Once you then have that mapped out, and that's a significant body of work, because even in this room, you'll appreciate that you believe that one parcel of land should be used for one purpose versus another. So that's a significant strategic body of work that we've got to work through. We'll then identify those parcels of land that need significant management plans, master plans, etc., that we will then bring through the process. And much like all of our other management plans that we've adopted, will then fit into your long-term financial plan and the annual spending that goes with that for council consideration as they go. The actual adoption of the open space layer won't necessarily affect this parcel of land per se, with the exception of, and as we said in the CEO commentary, whether council believes it's surplus to requirements or it should be used for a completely different purpose. In my experience, that's probably unlikely. And that's why we proceeded with the community-led design. In accordance with council resolution, we proceeded the design, we presented it to the council. What council can do is adopt this design. It can also choose to delay spending if it wishes, and it doesn't need to proceed with the spending straight away. So it can actually adopt a design and then defer the spending to a later time if that's what council wishes to do, if that's what they're concerned about.
Just further to that, can council decide to just do some components each year, like gradually over a period of time, if that's the way they see it? But if the design is approved, then you know where you can go and what you can plan for to bring back to council from a budget perspective. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, through Madam Mayor, yes, the design locked in gives my officers certainty on how they deliver that, but the timing is totally at council's discretion.
Through your worship, can I just add to that, sorry, as well, if you don't mind? Absolutely, completely agree 100%. But what having a completed, approved design allows us to do is apply for funding. Without that, we cannot apply for funding. That funding's not secured yet, Councillor Henschke. We've applied for it. We're hoping to receive the funding, which will significantly reduce the cost to council.
And I understood originally that the Rotary Club of Eastwood were really keen to try and get involved in that project as well. So I'm not sure if negotiations are still happening over that. All right, now we'll move to Councillor Hallett.
I do not support the rescission motion because the project was initiated and supported by residents through the East Residents Association. The outcome adds value socially and environmentally. Given the co-design process to date, a rescission motion represents a slap in the face to all those previously involved, especially that it doesn't even allow this project to be considered during the 24-25 budget process. The area is low in green space. As it is, elected members still will be able to consider the allocation of funds for an edible garden as part of the 24-25 budget prioritisation process. There very well may be other priorities that would be prioritised, but what you're doing is saying we're not even going to let it get to that decision-making process. And I think that that's very rude to the people, to the community who've initiated it and supported it to date.
Councillor Corn.
Could I have a question first regarding the costs? Because we've heard a lot of issues regarding $86,000. I remember it being $76,000 in the actual report. We've heard about potentially a grant. Can I get an understanding of what the actual costs of this might end up being?
Through Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr. Cant to get the accurate costings.
Through the worship, I believe the cost was $76,000 that we presented to council. The $10,000 was for the public art, but we suggested that that could be considered through the public art policy of the programme the following year.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, can I just clarify? So just to quote that figure, back was 76,000, and the grant that we have applied for would fund 50% of that cost to bring the net cost to council to around that $38,000.
Thank you. Can I speak on the matter now?
Yes, you can.
Look, I'm not going to support the rescission motion. I've asked a series of questions, and you can quite clearly see. Our ward definitely generates the most amount of cash in terms of rates, and at the same time we've got the smallest amount of open space there is. Smallest amount of open space. I then asked a series of questions regarding how much money we've invested in open space projects in other wards recently, and some of them are quite significant amounts of money, and I've supported them because we need to support open space and keeping our gardens right. From my recollection of this project, it was a member of the Rotary Club that actually was heavily involved in the Laurel Avenue community garden project, loved it so much, wanted one down here in Hewitt Avenue, saw this vacant block of land that council had. I suppose he was trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's my little joke there. Because he loved it so much, he wanted it down there. A consultation piece started. We've gone through 2 rounds of consultation, like every single one of those other projects that have been funded in all the other wards. The community have put their thoughts into it. You know, I can't see why this wouldn't get supported when potentially it could be only a $38,000 investment. And that's only if we approve it at the budget later on this year. I've got serious reservations with regarding to Councillor Harvey's maths on the consultation. Yes, I granted a small number did respond, but if we start looking at the numbers that did respond, we should have denied every single 40k per hour there was, because, you know, if you look at it by the numbers that responded versus they didn't, it would have been less than probably 30% that agreed to it that actually lived in the areas. But we went on the actual figures. The war widows are across the road. They don't have gardens. The community, if we start rejecting what the community say, as Councillor Hallett said, they get involved, they get invested in these local projects. If we just keep saying, what's the point of having community consultation if we're going to decide what we put in? Let's not even fuss around community consultation at all if we're just going to say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't live near it, but we know better.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Point of order.
No, no point of order.
Councillor Henschke. Cannot even
I-
hear
Stop.
what you're saying.
Sorry.
Excuse me, it needs to stop right away. No argument. We'll need
Okay.
the person who's debating.
I'll just-
No other conversation at all, please.
Thank you. I'll just make one. You know, last year we had a request to install fitness equipment in Tasmal Park, but we ultimately stopped that project, saving us $20,000 odd. That was the last opportunity for an open space project in our ward that we've done recently, and.
Excuse me, don't interrupt.
That's not part of the budget. But I won't support the rescission motion because I actually think we've gone through a decent process for this.
Can I just remind everybody to be respectful of each other when they're debating and not interrupt, not debate across the table or across the room or make side comments. It is actually making this whole project very disappointing to listen to, and particularly for our community who is watching and listening at home. Please respect each other and listen to what they have to say. Now, the next person to speak is Councillor Henschke. I believe you must have a question.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is, what is the cost of the path to make the existing park compliant with disability access to the seat? And would if we got the, sorry, just part of that question, sorry, is by the time we get to budget time and if we are successful with the grant, will we be paying for just the path with the $35,000? Sorry,
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can get the cost of the path clarified through Mr. Kent.
Through your worship, the cost of the entrance paving was estimated within the last council report, and that is an approximate cost of $5,000. We would use internal labour to assist us with that, so that's mostly materials.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Davey, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Mayor. Just going back to the costings, I actually have the paper here from the meeting on the 23rd of January, and this actually does put the total of the costings, total budget, at $86,700. And it comprises of wicking beds, tap for the wicking beds of $12,000, a drinking fountain, $12,000, a shade tree, $1,000, understory planting at $1,500, espalier planting.
We're waiting for a question, not another speech, Councillor Davey.
Could it possibly be revised in terms of the whole project? And I'm just pointing out that
It's just a question. You don't need to point anything out in a question.
I'm trying to get it out. Is it true that a pathway, which I'm hearing is a compliance issue, and quite fair enough, could be installed fairly quickly for $7,000?
Through Madam Mayor, if councillors wanted to fund it, yes, we could install the path as a first step, if that was...
But it has to be in line with the design, otherwise we can't just create a path. Is that correct or not?
Assuming council's resolution stays live, that they've endorsed that plan, we would match the plan.
But the plan has to be endorsed first, which is what this motion's actually about. Right, councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. We've secured 38,350 from the state government, I presume, at this stage, in progress at least. Do we see an opportunity for a second grant from the federal, potentially, to secure additional funding?
Through Mayor, sorry if there's any confusion. We've applied for a grant of 38,000, so that's the result of that is unknown at this point in time. I'm not aware of any federal funding rounds. I'd imagine on a federal basis they'd be looking to fund much larger projects. I think if we were to ascertain state funding for this, obviously subject to this decision this evening, yeah, it'd be reasonable for us to go ahead and expend the balance of 38,000.
We always take opportunities to apply for any funding that is available. That is something we are very cognizant of. Quite often the conditions of those grants, though, are that dollars are matched 50%, 50%. So a council commitment is often required to actually tap into some of those funds. And I should just clarify as well, I only quoted the entrance paving previously in my last response. I should have also said the path as well at $7,000. So that entrance paving at path is a total of $12,000.
Councillor Hubel.
A question, Your Worship, through yourself to the administration, if I may. In light of a few people speaking tonight about the vote and this motion at the last meeting, there's been an illusion that we didn't do it properly. And I hope I'm not stepping anyone's toes. I certainly don't mean to be anything but respectful to everybody. I was wondering whether there's some comment I could come from the administration on whether, I guess my question is, were our meeting procedures followed last meeting with respect to this being passed?
Through Madam Mayor, yes, correct meeting proceedings were procedures were followed.
Councillor Jones, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question, if I may, about the vast acres of open space we have in Beaumont Ward. The Pioneer Women's Trail.
Is this really relevant to this motion?
Yes, it is.
This rescission motion?
Yes, it is following up on a previous question and comment. Is the Pioneer Women's Trail disability access compliant? And how much would it cost to make it compliant?
Excuse me, the trail actually isn't on our land once it leaves Brock.
We lease the land.
Once we leave Brock Reserve, it isn't.
The trail is our land.
All the way to the Eagle on the Hill? No. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Right,
I'll let someone else answer the question from administration.
Madam Mayor, given the vast scale of that path and it's the way it is situated, I'm not even going to hazard a guess as a quote to make that disability compliant.
Can I just say that Beaumont Ward, I know having been a Beaumont Ward councillor, doesn't have too many pocket parks, but what it does have is vast extent of hill space zone for walking and walking trails on it. So it kind of makes it a little different. Right, now Councillor Davey, you have a question?
Thank you. Yes, I actually have two. One of my questions was, in discussing open space, it was mentioned not very long ago that the Rose Park Toorak Gardens ward had very little open space, but they're actually adjacent and their residents have this huge opportunity to cross the road and be in Victoria Park, which is acres of open space and is the same principle, is it not, as the Hills Face zone. The other question...
That's not a question, Councillor Davey.
Well, I was asking if that's correct.
That was making a comment. Now, you have a question, do you?
Yes, in terms of state government grants, I'm at a loss to know exactly what the amount is that we've applied for with the Pocket Park, the Hewitt Avenue Reserve. What actually have we applied for in terms of a grant from the state government for this development? And can you outline to us what other grants we've applied for in this financial year? Thank you.
Through Mayor, sorry, can I just clarify the question? What other grants we've applied for, in what context?
In the open space grant program.
Ah, okay, certainly.
Sorry.
We can refer that to Mr. Kent.
Through your worship, if you've got the previous report there, Councillor Davey, right under that list you were just referring to, number 2 on that same page, it says that a budget submission of 76,000 will be considered as part of the 24-25 business plan and budget for implementation of this concept plan. Just below that is 50% of that funding is being sought from the state government's open space grant programme, which if successful would return savings back to council. So as mentioned earlier on, that's 38,000. The only other project that we have applied for assistance with just now is that we believe was relevant was the Beaumont Common Management Plan, but that would be subject to council endorsing that and considering money in the budget. That may need to be delayed another 12 months depending on how council proceeds with the budget, and that's still to be considered, but we have applied for funding just in case.
Councillor Zing, you have another question or wish to speak?
The original intent of the motion, as I understand, was to put it for debate for the draft budget in June. So technically, if we don't secure funding as we would appreciate to that extent, we could pull it at that time anyways. Give us that few months to see what funding we could ascertain during these next few weeks. And obviously, if we do have significant funding, then we could progress. Is that correct?
So as the resolution currently stands, council has approved the plan, and that has enabled Mr. Cant to apply for funding. I'm not sure if they've indicated to us, Mr. Cant, with the decision timeframe.
It just recently closed. I believe it closed within the last week or two, but they have indicated that it will be in time for council to make a final decision in June. So I would expect April or May.
Yeah. If this rescission motion gets up this evening, we will pull that grant application.
Yes, Councillor Wilkins, because we do no longer qualify because we haven't approved it. Okay, Councillor Turnbull, you have a question.
I have a rhetorical question. I presume they're okay. With respect to the comment that was that the residents will be upset if this doesn't take, or it takes a long time to go ahead, or doesn't go ahead, haven't we all had residents in our areas ask what's happening to projects in our wards? Rhetorical question.
I will answer that rhetorical question by saying that this project has been underway for 4 years, and there would have been an expectation that a decision of some kind would have been made well within 4 years. I know sometimes projects take a lot longer to actually get going after the approval, but this one hasn't even been properly approved yet. That's the answer to the question. Now, Councillor Henschke, do you have a question?
Yes, I was going to ask that would we be depriving the City of Burnside residents with state funding if we didn't apply for this grant? And if this rescission goes through, we've just had the question and answer, but that's what I wanted to ask and reinforce, that this rescission motion means we're depriving the residents of the City of Burnside access to state government funding. Is that correct?
I'll answer it in a little bit of a different way than you may pose the question. If council decides not to do the project, no funds will be expended, and ratepayers won't have contributed to that project. If the project stays live and we are successful with our grant, the net cost to council will be $38,000. Thank you.
This is the first time I've seen the screen empty. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment, to speak or to ask a question? Councillor Wilkins, you have a question.
If you get the funding, i.e. staff receive the funding approval for 38,000, we could then do partially the works that were planned for, according to, you could do the path, etc., with that $38,000?
Through Madam Mayor, my understanding is the grant is based on a 50-50 basis, so the expectation from the state government would be that the project's completed at 100%. Because
without the artwork.
Yeah, without the artwork.
Without the artwork.
Without, sorry, yes, happy to clarify that, without the artwork.
Councillor Henschke, you have a question?
My question is, when we reach the budget time and we know the answer from the state government, can we do a variation with the state, with the grant, and say, look, we would like to defer into the following financial year part of the project, so stage it into the following part of the project into the following financial year? Is there a possibility of spreading the expenditure?
Madam Mayor, I'm going to be a bit blunter in my response than I may ordinarily be. If this project is going to be at jeopardy for the sake of $38,000 and you want to break that up, don't do it. Just don't do it. It will be an embarrassment, and one of the worst things you can ever do once you receive government grant funds is to return them. They're hard enough to win at the best of times. Governments have long memories, but the City of Burnside at this point in time has a very good reputation about the expenditure of state government grants. In fact, we are one of the poster children when the state government talks about spending grants. I would hate to tarnish that reputation.
Councillor Harvey?
Thank you. Yes, I do, Mayor. My question is, what if the state government doesn't support this? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, if they don't support it, then the council would have to consider whether they were willing to fund it. Sorry, if they don't provide grant funding, then the council would be, in my mind, at total liberty to consider whether, one, whether they continue with the project, or two, if they decided to continue, in what vein and time frame they funded it over. That would be totally at council's discretion.
Councillor Davey, you now have another question?
Yes, thanks. I'm a bit confused between what are community gardens and edible gardens, and I don't know, do we have a policy about edible gardens? Because I don't think we've had one in the past, and certainly not one that I'm familiar with.
I can explain a little about the whole of the Linden Park is a community garden where there are many, many garden beds where people have allocated beds for their exclusive use, and there are also beds there for generalised use. And they are generally for people to produce a whole large amount of growth for distribution and for allocation. Now, the edible garden is a bit like the little garden. It's actually even smaller scale than the edible garden that's outside the shed, if you know, in Conningham Street, where they grow herbs and some tomatoes and some other things, that's a small community garden as well. Downscale, even lower, or smaller, is what is proposed for Hewitt Avenue. And that is one little bed, and in it, where people can grow things. It's non-exclusive use. The passerby can walk past and take herbs, whatever's growing there at any point in time. So it's very minimal in terms of, like, you cannot compare it to the Linden Park garden. You can't even make it comparable to the shed garden because it's getting down smaller and smaller in terms of scale. Hence, there's a difference between that edible garden, which the shed is actually an edible garden as well as a commercial, a garden where people can come by.
So is Eastwood Community Centre?
Yes, yes, similar to that in a way, although even smaller than Eastwood, because it's only got, this is plan, what's approved, to be approved is just one bed, one little bed.
If I may, Madam Mayor, in direct answer to your question, Councillor Davey, yes, it is in compliance with our community garden policy.
Now Councillor Zing.
With respect to this project, have we written to the local members for advocacy by any means? Member Bragg, Jack Batty or James Stevens?
We've had conversations with Jack Batty. Jack Batty is very supportive of this community in terms of getting this garden.
If I can just provide further, Madam Mayor, Jack Batty has committed verbally to me that he's willing to provide a letter of support to support the grant application.
It doesn't matter whether it's part of their government or not.
No, he's the local member, yes. So it's fairly par for the course for the local member to write a letter of support for certain projects.
Now, Councillor Hallett, you got a question?
I've got a comment about...
Can only be a question.
Right. My question to the administration is, how far would people who had limited mobility, such as the elderly or disabled residents and children, how far would they have to walk, given there's only one set of pedestrian lights on Grant Avenue, to access Victoria Park? So people would have to walk from that area down to Grant Avenue. So how far would that be for somebody with a disability or an elderly person living in those units opposite and children?
That's 300 metres.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I've missed the question. Are you trying to clarify from
There was
the
a
park,
comment
from the
made
park?
about that this park, that Rose Park Ward has very limited open space.
Okay.
But then somebody made a comment that, oh, well, it's right opposite the Adelaide Parklands, Victoria Park. But I note that there is a comment in the East Residents Association paper that says Victoria Park is just across Fullerton Road, but there is very limited access for elderly, disabled residents and children, as there is only one set of pedestrian lights on Grant Avenue. Okay. And this could be a long way for people to walk to and from. So how far is that?
So my team have just got on Google Maps. It's approximately 500 metres.
500, so it's half a kilometre.
Yes.
So quite far. If you're disabled and elderly.
Right. Can you just turn your mic off, please, Councillor Hallett? Right, I think we've probably gone as far as we can go in this, and I'm going to... Oh, no, Councillor Hubel just got in time.
Thank you, Worship. I've been taking everything in. And whenever there's been a rescission motion, I believe I'm following good governance when I try to consider what new information has been presented to the council since the original vote was made. Now, I've had an undertaking that there wasn't anything done wrong last time. So as far as I'm concerned, this council voted, albeit a split decision with a casting vote, to go ahead with actively pursuing this project. And I voted for it. I liked it. I read the papers when it came along. I didn't need to discuss it because I was satisfied from the papers that this was worthwhile doing. And when it wasn't withdrawn, it was correctly voted on, as is our practice. In saying that, appreciate that some people, missed that, and that can happen, absolutely. But I think what I've seen tonight is that we actually have debated that motion, rather than actually debating the merits of going back on a previous decision. I would have thought, I was hoping to hear arguments about why us making that decision was flawed, and I haven't heard that. So what the debate tonight has effectively been about is the merits of this park. So I believe that a discussion of that motion, while ad hoc, has in fact been done. Look, I think there's been talk about overwhelming support. Look, we've done stuff with not a lot of respondents. We've done stuff where we've had respondents to consultation saying, no, we don't want it, and we've gone and done it anyway. Like I said earlier tonight on another item, we're elected to make decisions. Let's make decisions. And we're not, obviously, a lot of people aren't comfortable with the decision that was made, but following procedures, following the way we do things, I believe there are stopgaps in place. There's security in not spending this money and that it still needs to go through the budget. So I can't see a reason for us to overturn our previous decision, which is what this motion is actually asking us to be discussing. So.
All right, now go back to Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for your input. This is not about taking away from our community. The pocket park is already there and can be made even better at very little cost for all residents to enjoy, all our community to enjoy. It is about the exorbitant cost to ratepayers. And Councillor Henschke put this copy of an email from a resident who is on our desk this evening, and it's from an Eastern Resident Association member. Now, they have 70 members. Why have not 70 members voted to support this pocket park, want to get on board with this park? It doesn't make sense. And I thank this resident for putting her thoughts forward in an email to us. But it doesn't support the park. Her members don't support the park. And as I said, $86,700 does not stack up for a very small pocket park. I hope you support this rescind motion for the reasons that it is intended. Thank you.
I'll put it to the vote. Those who support the rescission motion, please raise your hands. Right, and those against? And I will be going against the rescission motion as I voted the last time. And a division has been called, so please keep your hands up if you support the motion. If you support the motion. It's Councillor Jones, Wilkins, Davey, Harvey, Turnbull and Dawes. Those against, Councillor Hubel, Jennings, Zing, Henschke, Cornish, Hallett and Mayor Monceau. Thank you for that lengthy debate. Now, I believe there is no, unless there's any, oh no, we have a 13.2. Now it's 9 o'clock. Are you happy for us to just do the last one rather than have a break and then we can end the meeting? Okay, after that. All right, so it's 13.2, page 62, and I think it's Councillor Davey, isn't it? Yes, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll read it out, but it's fairly straightforward. Following resolution of the numbers written there of August 2023, receives a full report by the end of March 2024, which details the actions taken to date to identify and determine the decline and death of approximately 12 Indigenous trees of varying age in the area adjacent to the Holden Street car park during 2023, including A, what technical and scientific expertise has been used to undertake the inspection, testing and assessment of the trees and soil in order to determine the cause of the demise of the trees in question. B, what's been identified as needed to prevent any further decline and loss of trees and vegetation in the area. And C, when the dead and declining trees are able to be removed, what it is recommended that they are to be replaced with, and when this will occur in the coming autumn planting season. And 2, receives all information on any other issues relevant to the health, welfare and survival of the trees, biodiversity and vegetation in this affected area, and any further scientific and budgetary investment which needs to be considered and made to ensure the environmental and habitat amenity of this area is maintained.
Councillor, just before you start debating, in future, we don't, if the motion is exactly as it is tabled in the document, you don't have to read it out. It's only if you provide an alternative or a completely different version, because people at home haven't got access to any changes, so they don't even know, they can't see the screen. So in future, this is for everyone just to understand. So you only need to read it out if you make a big change to the motion. So now you can start again.
Thank you.
You can speak.
Thank you for that clarification, Mayor. The administration have commented that an update on this matter can be provided to council within the time frame requested. And the reason I've put it up is we have had a couple of updates since August, and I know the staff have been working assiduously with all sorts of university and scientific organisations. But I'm at the stage where the local and the wider community remain concerned and keep talking to me about the complexity of the identification process to identify and determine what has caused the deaths of these trees. And they're very keen that the trees are removed and that they can be replaced in the coming autumn planting season. Because what we've got is skeletonized trees, some of them metres and metres and metres, 20 metres high. And the residents some are concerned that they're going to fall over, that they're dead, so they might fall over. We have been reassured that this isn't the case. And we know, and we have been told that till we identify what has caused the death of the trees, we don't know how we can go about planting them. But the locals don't want to see, and there's hundreds of people who pass this area every day, from Pembroke School, sports activities, the dog walkers, the other runners and people who use this area. It's looking really derelict, and I'm really keen that we get to the bottom of it as fast as possible and get a report which identifies what's caused this and how we can remove these dead trees and replace them. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Councillor Zing, you're seconding. Do you wish
Happy
to speak now?
Just got a question. I think last time when we debated this, Barry gave an update. They were waiting on results from the Royal Botanic Gardens in Sydney. Is that sort of still in the waiting? Or?
Through the worship, yeah, I've kept the ward councillors fully updated every time I've received an update from the arborists and also the companies or the scientists that we've actually referred it to. There's no new news at this stage. We have chased up again, and we're hopeful that we will have further information to share with you by the time this report is due.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak? If not, I'm going to ask Councillor Davey if you are happy for me to put the motion, or do you want to summarise?
I just want to very briefly.
Oh, and I need to ask Councillor Zing if he wishes to speak, because you did second without actually speaking. Okay, Councillor Davey?
Oh.
Sorry, I have got someone. Councillor Hedgkey's just asked to speak.
Apologies, I just had a question. Is there a budget for this investigation, or is it in-house resources? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, it's just utilising in-house resources and assisting staff to refer the matters off.
All right, Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Everyone would like to see some resolution after many, many months of the trees being dead and not having the answers yet. So if we could go all out with our scientific and educational and university having the best expertise to identify this, it would be much appreciated. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Anyone has any special business items? I declare the meeting closed at 9:04 p.m. and thank you all for your attendance.